We have finally reached the pinnacle of all gaming monitors, ladies and gents. This is as good as it gets. The ROG Swift OLED PG32UCDM offers peak performance for all enthusiasts and gamers looking for high resolution and high refresh rate gaming. ASUS has launched a nice selection of OLED gaming monitors this year, however this one is their flagship. This sports a 4K resolution, 240Hz refresh rate with a 0.03 millisecond response time. It is crazy fast. But this also means that you're gonna need a capable PC to be able to take advantage of this monitor's specs. Monitors in general have evolved quite a bit over the past 10 years. We are now seeing sleek displays, and the 32UCDM is no exception. Extremely thin bezels all around with a very thin panel as well, and a small chin that protrudes underneath. On the back of that is where you'll find the joystick and a few buttons to access the OSD, and this also serves as a handle for tilting the monitor so that you're not touching the display. It's got pretty decent tilt angles. You also get swivel on both sides and height adjustment, which is pretty cool. The only thing you can't do is rotate. So if you're looking to use this as a vertical display, a desk mount is your only option. Luckily, ROG does sell an ergo monitor arm separately, which is the perfect combo with this display. It's got a C-clamp design that supports desks up to 80mm thick and has a built-in cable management tray on both sides to help clean up the wires. This arm will support all monitors with a maximum weight of 23.35 pounds up to 39 inches wide. With a mount, you get full range of movement, including 360-degree rotation. One thing to note is that if you do decide to use a default mount, it will take up almost 11 inches of your desk. Most desks are 30 inches deep, so already you're giving up 1/3 of the depth. 32 inches is also a pretty big size, especially if you're upgrading from a 27-inch. You're gonna want a deep enough desk so that the monitor isn't right in front of your face. I would say a desk with 30 inches of depth should be the very minimum unless you're mounting it to the wall or your desk. Then in that case, you'll be fine. Construction-wise, it's built fairly well. However, it does have a little bit of play on both sides, which looks to be intentional. I'm assuming it's to adjust the level of the monitor if your desk or floor is crooked. It also comes with a built-in standard 1/4-inch thread in the back, which is nice if you want to hook up streaming accessories. I mean, overall, the design is pretty cool, and it does stay true to the ROG DNA. It's futuristic, cyberpunk inspired, and very aggressive, which is what the gamers like. Aside from the ROG logo being projected down on the desk, there's another one in the back that is customizable through the OSD menu. It's a nice feature, but completely useless as you can't even see it, nor is it bright enough for the lights to bounce off the wall. For connectivity, you get a nice selection of ports, including dual HDMI 2.1 and USB Type-C, which supports 90-watt power delivery after enabling this feature in the menu. I do wish the ports were slightly higher up in the back because the cables do stick out a little bit from the front, but I doubt this is going to be a deal breaker for anyone. What I do like is the built-in KVM switch. After plugging in the keyboard and mouse directly into the USB ports in the back of the monitor, you can easily switch between two systems in PIP or PBP mode using a default shortcut. In my setup, I have the monitor plugged into my desktop PC via HDMI cable, and my laptop is plugged in via USB Type-C. With this setup, I can use this monitor with both PCs, and I can switch between them using the keyboard shortcut. Ideally, this would be so much more useful on an ultra-wide, but if you really only have one monitor and you want to use two separate systems, this is the only option. QD OLED is the new technology that all of these OLED monitors are using, specifically 3rd gen QD OLED, which has a new sub-pixel layout which does improve sharpness and clarity. Remember how bad text showed up on previous OLED monitors? Well, with these new QD OLED panels, it's slightly improved. The fuzziness around the text is still there, but it's less obvious compared to last gen, thanks to its new sub-pixel layout. However, if the monitor is sitting pretty far from you, honestly, you won't even notice it there. Of course, you get amazing contrast and the incredible deep blacks, but the colors are also more vibrant because of the glossy coating. ASUS decided to throw on a glossy screen, but it's got an anti-reflective coating, so it's not going to be annoying sitting next to a window or being in a very bright room. It does a pretty good job minimizing glare to a point where it doesn't bother me while I'm zoned in a game. With that being said, it is a major fingerprint magnet, which is why I always keep one of these handy cleaning tools on hand. It's a compact spray and microfiber in one, and it does a fantastic job keeping my screens clean without using any alcohol or harmful chemicals to damage the screen. Watching HDR content on this monitor has also been an absolute treat. With support for various HDR formats like HDR10 and Dolby Vision, movies never looked this good. Without HDR enabled, the blacks look too dark in certain movies, and because of that, the detail is lost. Take this scene for instance, The Dark Knight. You can't even see what's going on most of the time because the detail is drowned out in the deep blacks, and there's a lot of dark scenes in this movie. With HDR on, it drastically improves the dynamic range of the colors, especially the blacks. It basically brings the details back to life. Of course, this feature only works on HDR supported content, but it looks so much better on an OLED monitor. Okay, let's talk gaming. After all, this is a gaming monitor. I don't even know where to start, to be honest. There's no way I can possibly explain or show you guys how awesome it is to play on this through a lens, unfortunately. The 240 Hz refresh rate is not what makes this monitor fast. It's that, coupled with the insane response times. That is what gives you this unparalleled buttery smooth visuals in games. Look, I game on a 240 Hz monitor on my main setup, but switching to this monitor and playing the finals, I felt the difference. This is because OLED has much faster response times than LCDs. Mainly because LCDs can have much more variance when it comes to refresh rate performance compared to OLED. I've actually noticed my reaction times were better on the 240 Hz OLED compared to my 240 Hz LCD. Not surprisingly, I also didn't find any ghosting or corona artifacts present from the UFO test. Just super clean frames without any over or undershooting. With that said, I have to go on record and say that I did enjoy playing casual games more on this monitor compared to FPS games. Maybe I still haven't gotten used to the 32-inch size, but personally for me, FPS games feel better on a 27-inch display. This is of course just my opinion. Adventure games, RPGs, hell even MOBAs would look fantastic on the monitor. Immersive games like racing games are better on an ultra-wide, and competitive esports games are best on a 27-inch. That's not to say you can't play FPS games on this screen. It's definitely possible. You're just gonna have to get comfortable with the size. Everyone has different preferences.
Now, if you just can't get used to the default size and you're out of options, then you might like the built-in feature called aspect control. Through the OSD menu, you can actually change the size of the screen to either 27 or 24.5 inches with the addition of black borders. But because this is an OLED panel and the pixels can shut off completely, it makes it a lot easier to focus in on the game and not get distracted by the black borders.
Your experience and ultimately your decision on buying this monitor will also depend on your system's performance, right? This has a 240 Hz refresh rate on a native 4K resolution. So you're gonna need a pretty beefy system to be able to take advantage of these specs. The only games I can think of where you can push those numbers in 4K resolution is CSGO 2, Valorant, maybe Overwatch 2, and Tetris. Heavier titles like God of War, Warzone 2, and Modern Warfare 3, even with a 4090, is gonna be tough pushing close to 240 FPS in 4K, unless you lower the settings. But why would you do that and sacrifice picture quality? Asus is coming out with another version of its monitor that gives you the option of switching between 4K at 240 Hz and 1080p at 480 Hz. I think that monitor would be more enticing for gamers who want the best of both worlds, both competitive and casual. There's also some pretty cool AI technology baked in the monitor. Some more useful than others, like the crosshair, for example. Some games have terrible crosshair options, like the finals, for example, so having the option to change it to a few different styles is nice. There's also a built-in timer and FPS counter, which is useful if you want to know how much FPS you're gaining in games. You can also select from a bunch of different color profiles, each tweaked for specific scenarios like FPS gaming, racing, watching cinema, and more. But you can adjust the blacks manually through the shadow boost. This comes in handy if you're playing a very dark game or if you're in a very dark area like a cave, for example. I actually found this very useful playing Palworld at night because it was a lot easier to see things in the dark. This really does feel like the perfect all-in-one monitor. It's not only great for gaming, but it's also great for content creation as well. You just have a lot of screen real estate to work with, and the colors are very accurate. In my testing, we scored 98% of DCI-P3 coverage and 100% of the sRGB color space, making this one of the best monitors for color-sensitive work. When it comes to OLED monitors in general, burn-in has always been a concern, but we've come a long way with preventative care. Asus has quite a few features baked in the monitor that will help prolong the life of the display and reduce burn-in. For starters, they removed the cooling fan from inside and switched to passive cooling via heatsink, and they added a graphene film behind the QD OLED panel, which will reduce operating temperature. The monitor will also automatically detect certain bright areas of your screen and automatically lower the brightness, stuff like your taskbar and stationary logos on the screen. You also get pixel cleaning and uniform brightness, which balances the brightness on the screen at consistent levels, which is nice. You can access these settings from the screen protection category in the OSD menu or from the OLED care section of the widget center, which is a much easier way of controlling the settings of your monitor. I mean, you don't get every single menu option, but all the important ones are here, making it very easy to access instead of having to use the joystick every time. You can also use the widget center to control the ROG RO light bar that's sold separately. This has a universal design that will fit pretty much any monitor, whether it's flat or curved, by simply rotating the magnetic clip. It's also got a scroll wheel on the side, giving you quick access in changing the brightness and the temperature of the light, and a power button on the side that activates the RGB lighting in the back, which honestly isn't bright enough to really do anything. It's more of a soft glow to add a bit of ambient lighting to your setup. If you're buying this monitor for your GTX 1050 Ti, what's the point? I mean, sure, you're able to watch content on an amazing display, but you're not going to take advantage of the resolution and the refresh rate when you're gaming. But then again, if you're looking to buy this monitor, then it means you can afford a high-end GPU as well, because this goes for $1,300 US. This is technically a great future-proof monitor as well. Let's say you don't exactly have a beefy system right now, but you want to pick this up. You can still enjoy watching content on here. You can use it for content creation. You can even hook this up to your console and enjoy 4K at 120 FPS. Until later this year, when you do upgrade your system, you're pretty much set. Asus is actually giving away an entire master kit to one lucky person. They get the brand new 32-inch 4K monitor, they get the ROG RO light bar, and the ROG Ergo mount arm. If you guys want to participate on a giveaway, I'll drop a link to that down below, along with a link to everything I talked about in today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I'll see you very soon in the next one.